I want to talk about an assignment you have coming up toward the end of March called the title analysis. So the location at which you can find that is under information for poetry explication, and then you'll see title analysis accessible, that document available. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, and we're going to take a look at it. I'm going to explain it a little bit. I already have examples here. I'm using E.E. Cummings' poem Cruelly Love. You can Google that and pull it up and look at it for yourself if you would like. But I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions I want you to answer on this. So probably the best way to do it is to download it and then just type your answers in after each example. So number 1, what immediate associations do you make with the title? So you want to look at the poem that you're teaching and writing the explication for, and you want to figure out, okay, immediately, maybe the first time you looked at the title before you had really read the poem, what associations did you make with the title? What did you think of just, right away? If you don't know what the word in the title means, or what a word in the title means, then you want to look it up. All right. Does it mean what you thought it meant before you looked it up? So just any ideas that you have about the title, your initial impressions of it, what you maybe thought it meant but found out that it didn't mean. Okay, anything like that. So based on the title alone, what do you think the poem will be about? So you might have to think back to when you first looked at this title. What did you think about that? What did you think that the poem would be about? And then number 2, look at the first line of the poem. You want to list any words that seem to relate to the title and explain how you think they connect. Now, some people end up saying to me, this is really hard. I don't see how I can make any connections between the first line and the poem. And it's true, some poems might be easier to do this with than others, but you definitely want to stretch and try to bring up any associations that you could possibly make between that title and the first line. Number 3, choose other words from the poem that seem to relate to the title. You do want to consider obvious direct relationships, but you want to dig a little more deeply than that and consider any connections that suggest irony or understatement. Okay, anything that is not just on the surface as well as what you want to bring up. So you want to list the words and their respective lines and explain how they relate. And you can see the examples that I've given you below that. So you want to do the same thing for your own poem. Number 4, look at the final line of the poem. List any words that seem to relate to the title and explain how they connect. Now, if you do happen to look at this poem that I'm using as an example, you might think, gosh, it's really hard. How did she come up with these connections? But you really want to stretch yourself and think in an associative, metaphorical kind of way. And this might be hard for some people because maybe they haven't done this before, or they haven't practiced this very much. But it's a good skill. It helps you think outside the box. So you do want to try to make connections that aren't just like obvious and ones that don't just come to mind, immediately. So you might have to spend a little bit of time with this poem to come up with those associations. And then number 5, how does the title seem to relate to who the speaker is? Think about the voice that you're hearing in the poem. Who do you imagine that person to be? And then think about how the title relates to who you envision the speaker being. So this assignment, once you finish it, you want to make sure you save it, and you want to submit it to the Dropbox folder before the deadline. Okay, there's a Dropbox folder for this on Momentum, so make sure that you get it in on time, because I do not have a late folder for this, and I don't plan on making a late folder. So make sure that you fill out each of these with as much information as you can. Don't skip any, and make sure you get it in on time.